The morning of September 12, 2005, started like any other school day for 12-year-old Emily Chen. She kissed her mother goodbye, grabbed her purple backpack, and walked out the front door of their suburban home in Millbrook, Connecticut. She never made it to school. She never came home. For 14 years, her disappearance remained one of the town's most haunting mysteries. Then, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in 2019, everything changed when a young teacher named David Morrison found something in the principal's office that would finally reveal the truth about what happened to Emily Chen. Emily was the kind of student every teacher loved. She was bright, curious, and always eager to help others. Her favorite subject was science, and she dreamed of becoming a marine biologist one day. She lived with her parents, Susan and William Chen, in a modest 2-story house about a mile from Millbrook Middle School. Every morning, Emily walked the same route to school. She would leave her house, turn left on Oak Street, walk past the old cemetery, cross through Riverside Park, and arrive at school 15 minutes later. It was a path she had taken hundreds of times before. On that September morning, Emily left her house at exactly 7:30 a.m. Her mother watched from the kitchen window as Emily adjusted her backpack straps and started walking down the sidewalk. Susan Chen would later tell police that nothing seemed unusual about that morning. Emily had eaten her usual breakfast of cereal and orange juice. She had finished all her homework the night before. She was excited about her science presentation on ocean ecosystems scheduled for that afternoon. When Emily didn't come home from school that day, her parents initially weren't worried. They assumed she had stayed late for a club meeting or gone to a friend's house. But when 5 p.m. came and went with no word from their daughter, concern turned to panic. Susan called the school and learned that Emily had been marked absent all day. She had never arrived at school. The search began immediately. Police officers, neighbors, and volunteers combed every inch of Emily's usual route to school. They searched the park, the woods behind the cemetery, and every house along Oak Street. Dogs tracked her scent from her home to the edge of Riverside Park, where the trail suddenly went cold. It was as if Emily had simply vanished into thin air. Detective Roger Hayes led the investigation. He interviewed every person who lived along Emily's route to school. He questioned her classmates, her teachers, and anyone who might have seen her that morning. One neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, reported seeing Emily walk past her house around 7:35 a.m. A jogger in the park thought he saw a girl matching Emily's description near the pond around 7:45 a.m., but he couldn't be certain. After that, there were no more sightings. The police explored every possible scenario. Had Emily run away? Her parents insisted this was impossible. Emily was happy at home and had no reason to leave. Had she been abducted? There were no witnesses to any struggle or suspicious vehicles in the area. Had she suffered an accident? Search teams dragged the pond and explored every hidden spot in the park, but found nothing. As days turned to weeks, the case grew cold. The FBI joined the investigation, expanding the search nationwide. Emily's photo appeared on missing person posters across the country. Her story was featured on national news programs. A reward fund grew to $50,000 for any information leading to her safe return. But despite all these efforts, no solid leads emerged. The Chen family's life was shattered. Susan quit her job to dedicate herself full-time to finding her daughter. William spent every weekend driving to nearby towns, putting up posters and talking to anyone who would listen. They never changed Emily's room, keeping it exactly as she had left it that morning, with her bed unmade and her science textbook open on her desk. Years passed, but the Chens never gave up hope. They held vigils every year on the anniversary of Emily's disappearance. They maintained a website with Emily's information and age-progressed photos showing what she might look like as she grew older. They spoke at conferences for families of missing children, sharing their story and keeping Emily's case in the public eye. In Millbrook, Emily's disappearance left a permanent mark on the community. Parents no longer let their children walk to school alone. The town installed security cameras along the route to school. Riverside Park, once a popular gathering place for families, became a reminder of the day their town lost its innocence. Detective Hayes retired in 2015, but he never forgot about Emily Chen. He kept a copy of her file at home and would review it regularly, hoping to spot something he had missed. He stayed in touch with the Chen family, calling them every few months to let them know he hadn't given up. But as more time passed, everyone privately began to accept that Emily might never be found. Then came that Tuesday afternoon in October 2019. David Morrison had been teaching 7th grade English at Millbrook Middle School for 3 years. He was young, enthusiastic, and well-liked by his students. That day, Principal Janet Roberts had asked him to retrieve some old fundraising records from a storage closet in her office while she was at a district meeting. The storage closet was cramped and dusty, filled with boxes of old documents, outdated textbooks, and forgotten supplies. As David moved boxes around, searching for the fundraising records, something caught his eye. Pushed far into the back corner, partially hidden behind a stack of old yearbooks, was a purple backpack. It looked oddly out of place among the yellowed papers and dusty boxes. David pulled the backpack out and immediately noticed how well preserved it was. Despite being covered in dust, the purple fabric was barely faded. The zippers still worked smoothly. A small keychain in the shape of a dolphin dangled from one of the zipper pulls. Something about the backpack seemed familiar, though David couldn't immediately place why. He opened the main compartment and found typical school supplies. There were notebooks, pencils, a calculator, and textbooks. But these weren't current textbooks. David recognized them as editions the school had stopped using years ago. In the front pocket, he found a student ID card. When he read the name, his blood ran cold. Emily Chen. David's hand shook as he held the ID card. Like everyone in Millbrook, he knew about Emily Chen. Her story had become part of the town's history, told to newcomers as a cautionary tale. He had seen her missing person posters countless times, and now, here was her backpack, hidden in the principal's office for 14 years. His first instinct was to call the police immediately, but something made him pause. How had Emily's backpack ended up in Principal Roberts' storage closet? Roberts had been the assistant principal back in 2005, promoted to principal just 2 years after Emily's disappearance. David's mind raced with questions and uncomfortable possibilities. He decided to look through the backpack more carefully. In one of the notebooks, he found Emily's science presentation notes about ocean ecosystems. The date at the top of the page was September 12, 2005, the day she disappeared. In another pocket, he found a folded piece of paper. When he opened it, he discovered it was a note written in adult handwriting. The note said, "Meet me in the office before school. Important. Don't tell anyone." David felt sick to his stomach. He took photos of everything with his phone, then carefully placed all the items back in the backpack. He left the principal's office and went straight to his car. From his car, he called Detective Hayes, whose number was still listed on the old missing person website. Hayes, though retired, immediately understood the significance of the discovery. He told David to stay where he was and not to tell anyone else about the backpack. Within an hour, Hayes arrived at the school with 2 current detectives. They quietly entered the building and went to the principal's office. The backpack was exactly where David had left it. The detectives photographed everything in detail before carefully bagging each item as evidence. They interviewed David extensively about how he had found the backpack and whether he had noticed anything else unusual in the storage closet. Then they sealed the principal's office as a potential crime scene. Principal Roberts was called back from her meeting. When she arrived and saw the police at her office, her face went pale. The detectives asked her about the backpack, and she claimed to have no knowledge of it. She said she rarely went into that storage closet and had no idea how long the backpack had been there, but the detectives noticed she was sweating, and her hands were trembling. The investigation that had been cold for 14 years suddenly became very active. Police obtained a warrant to search Roberts' home and her personal records. They re-interviewed everyone who had worked at the school in 2005. They pulled old security footage from nearby businesses that might have captured something relevant on the day Emily disappeared. Meanwhile, forensic experts examined the backpack and its contents. They found fingerprints on the note that matched Principal Roberts. They also found traces of DNA on the backpack straps. The evidence was mounting, but police still needed to understand what had actually happened to Emily. The breakthrough came when detectives interviewed Carl Brennan, who had been the school janitor in 2005. Now in his 70s and living in a nursing home, Brennan had never been thoroughly questioned during the original investigation. When shown a photo of the backpack, his expression changed. He said he had something to tell them, something that had haunted him for 14 years. Brennan revealed that on the morning of September 12, 2005, he had arrived at school earlier than usual, around 7 a.m. As he was unlocking the building, he saw Assistant Principal Roberts' car in the parking lot, which was unusual for that early hour. He thought nothing of it at the time and went about his morning routine. About an hour later, as he was cleaning the hallway near the main office, he heard what sounded like arguing coming from Roberts' office. He recognized a young girl's voice but couldn't make out the words. Then he heard a loud thump, like something falling. The arguing stopped. Brennan knocked on the door to check if everything was okay, but Roberts told him everything was fine and to continue with his work. Later that morning, after the news spread that Emily Chen was missing, Brennan noticed Roberts leaving the building with a large sports bag he had never seen her carry before. She seemed nervous and avoided eye contact with him. When he cleaned her office that afternoon, he noticed the carpet had been recently cleaned and the furniture had been rearranged. Brennan admitted he had suspected something was wrong, but had been too afraid to speak up. Roberts was his supervisor, and he feared losing his job. He had convinced himself that he must have been mistaken about what he heard, but the guilt had eaten at him for years, especially as he watched the Chen family's desperate search for their daughter. With this new testimony, police pressed Roberts harder. They told her about Brennan's statement and the evidence they had found. Finally, after hours of questioning, Roberts broke down. She confessed to what had happened on that September morning 14 years ago. Roberts revealed that Emily had discovered something that could have destroyed her career. The week before her disappearance, Emily had stayed after school to work on her science presentation. She had gone to the office to ask for supplies and had accidentally seen Roberts taking money from the school fundraising account. Emily, being the honest and conscientious student she was, had confronted Roberts about it. Roberts had panicked. She was in serious debt from gambling and had been borrowing from the school funds, always intending to pay it back. She couldn't afford to lose her job and face criminal charges, so she had written the note asking Emily to meet her before school, hoping to convince the girl to keep quiet. On that morning, Emily had come to the office as requested. Roberts had tried to explain her situation and begged Emily not to tell anyone, but Emily refused to keep the secret. She said stealing was wrong, and that her parents had taught her to always tell the truth. Roberts grew desperate. She grabbed Emily by the shoulders, trying to reason with her. Emily pulled away and tried to leave. In the struggle, Emily fell and hit her head on the corner of the desk. Roberts said she tried to revive Emily but couldn't find a pulse. Instead of calling for help, she made a terrible decision. She hid Emily's body in the large sports bag Brennan had seen and put Emily's backpack in the storage closet. She then cleaned up the office and acted normally when other staff began arriving. That night, Roberts returned to the school and moved Emily's body to her car. She drove several hours away and buried the body in a remote forest area where her family had once owned property. She had lived with the guilt ever since, always fearing that someday the truth would come out. Roberts provided the exact location where she had buried Emily. Police and forensic teams immediately went to the site. Using ground-penetrating radar and careful excavation, they found human remains exactly where Roberts had indicated. Dental records confirmed it was Emily Chen. The news of Roberts' arrest and confession shocked Millbrook. Parents who had trusted her with their children for years felt betrayed. Teachers who had worked alongside her couldn't believe she had been capable of such a thing. The school district launched a comprehensive review of all its financial records and safety protocols. For the Chen family, the revelation brought a complex mix of emotions. After 14 years of not knowing, they finally had answers. They could finally bring Emily home and give her a proper burial. But learning that Emily had died trying to do the right thing, and that her death could have been prevented if Roberts had simply called for help, made the pain even sharper. The community rallied around the Chens. A memorial service for Emily drew thousands of people. The school established a scholarship in her name for students who showed exceptional integrity and courage. Riverside Park, where Emily had loved to feed the ducks, installed a bench with a plaque honoring her memory. David Morrison, the teacher who had found the backpack, was recognized for his role in solving the case. But he struggled with the knowledge that Emily's backpack had been hidden in the school all those years. While her family searched desperately for her, he continued teaching but made it his mission to create a safer environment where students could report concerns without fear. Carl Brennan, the janitor who had finally spoken up, spent his remaining years trying to make amends for his silence. He spoke at school assemblies about the importance of reporting suspicious behavior, no matter how difficult it might be. He corresponded with the Chen family, who eventually forgave him, understanding the fear that had kept him quiet. Janet Roberts was charged with involuntary manslaughter, concealing a death, embezzlement, and several other crimes. During her trial, prosecutors presented evidence that she had stolen over $30,000 from school funds. She was sentenced to 25 years in prison. The judge noted that while Emily's death may have been accidental, Roberts' decision to cover it up and let a family suffer for 14 years showed a complete lack of humanity. The case led to significant changes in how schools handle financial oversight and student safety. The district implemented new policies requiring multiple signatures on all financial transactions and regular audits. They also created an anonymous reporting system where students and staff could report concerns without fear of retaliation. Detective Hayes, who had come out of retirement to see the case through, said solving Emily's disappearance was bittersweet. He was glad the family finally had closure, but wished Emily had been found alive. He used the case to train new detectives about the importance of thoroughly investigating everyone connected to a crime, regardless of their position or reputation. The Chen family established the Emily Chen Foundation, dedicated to helping families of missing children and promoting child safety. They worked with lawmakers to pass legislation requiring schools to conduct more thorough background checks and regular financial audits. Susan Chen became an advocate for missing children, though she said no amount of activism could fill the void left by Emily's absence. In the years that followed, Millbrook slowly healed from the trauma. The middle school was renovated and renamed in Emily's honor. New security measures made parents feel safer about sending their children to school. The town's children learned about Emily Chen, not just as a victim, but as a brave girl who stood up for what was right, even when it was dangerous. The purple backpack that had hidden in a dusty closet for 14 years became a powerful symbol. It represented both the tragedy of a young life cut short and the importance of never giving up the search for truth. It reminded everyone that sometimes the answers we seek are closer than we think, waiting to be discovered by someone willing to look in unexpected places. The story of Emily Chen serves as a reminder that courage can come from the youngest among us, and that standing up for what's right is always worth it, even when it's difficult. It shows that secrets, no matter how well hidden, have a way of coming to light, and it demonstrates that a community's determination to find the truth can bring justice, even after many years have passed. Today, when students at Emily Chen Middle School pass by her portrait in the main hallway, they see more than just a girl who went missing. They see someone their own age who had the courage to confront wrongdoing. Teachers use her story to teach about integrity, bravery, and the importance of speaking up when something is wrong. The Chen family continues to live in Millbrook, finding comfort in their community's support. They keep Emily's memory alive not through grief alone, but through positive action. Every year on September 12th, instead of marking the anniversary of Emily's disappearance, they celebrate her life with a day of community service, encouraging young people to help others and stand up for justice. The discovery of Emily's backpack after 14 years proves that cold cases should never be considered hopeless. It shows that evidence can surface in the most unexpected places, and that one person's decision to investigate something unusual can change everything. David Morrison often reflects on what would have happened if he hadn't pulled that purple backpack from the closet. The thought haunts him, but it also drives him to always pay attention to things that seem out of place. Law enforcement agencies across the country studied the Emily Chen case to improve their investigative procedures. They learned the importance of searching every possible location, including places that seem unlikely. They also recognized the need to re-interview witnesses years later, as time and guilt can sometimes loosen tongues that were once sealed by fear. The case also highlighted the vulnerability of children who discover adult crimes. Emily had done exactly what she had been taught to do when she witnessed wrongdoing, but she had no way of knowing the danger she was putting herself in. Schools now teach students not just to report problems, but to do so safely, preferably to multiple trusted adults or through anonymous channels. For Principal Roberts, sitting in her prison cell, every day brings reminders of the life she destroyed and the career she threw away. She has expressed remorse for her actions, but the Chen family has chosen not to engage with her. They focus instead on honoring Emily's memory and helping other families avoid similar tragedies. The purple backpack itself now sits in a memorial display at the local museum, alongside Emily's story and photographs from her too short life. Visitors often leave flowers and notes, messages for a girl they never met but whose courage inspired them. School groups visit to learn about integrity and the importance of doing the right thing, even when it's hard. As the years pass, Emily Chen's story has become more than just a local tragedy. It has become a cautionary tale about the abuse of power, the importance of financial oversight in schools, and the need to protect children who report wrongdoing. It reminds us that those in positions of authority must be held to the highest standards, especially when they are entrusted with the care of children. The resolution of Emily's case also brought changes to how missing children cases are investigated. The fact that crucial evidence sat hidden in the school for 14 years led to new protocols requiring thorough searches of all locations connected to a missing child, no matter how unlikely they might seem. Some police departments now conduct periodic re-examinations of cold case evidence, knowing that something overlooked initially might prove crucial years later. Emily's parents often speak about their daughter's character and the values they instilled in her. They take pride in knowing that Emily died standing up for her principles, even as they grieve the future she never got to live. They wonder about the marine biologist she might have become, the discoveries she might have made, the lives she might have touched. But they find solace in knowing that her story continues to inspire young people to act with integrity. The teacher who found the backpack, David Morrison, went on to become a principal himself. He implemented strict financial controls and created multiple safe channels for students to report concerns. He keeps a photo of Emily Chen in his office, a daily reminder of the importance of vigilance and the duty adults have to protect children. The town of Millbrook has transformed since that dark day in 2005. What was once known primarily for a tragic disappearance is now recognized for its strong community response and commitment to child safety. The town's children grow up knowing Emily's story, understanding that their voices matter, and that adults will listen when they speak up about wrongdoing. The Emily Chen Foundation has helped dozens of families search for missing loved ones. It provides funding for private investigators, supports families during long searches, and advocates for better resources for law enforcement. Susan and William Chen have turned their unbearable loss into a mission to prevent other families from experiencing the same pain. As this story comes to a close, it's important to remember that behind every cold case is a family waiting for answers. The discovery of Emily's backpack after 14 years shows that those answers can come from anywhere, at any time. It reminds us to stay vigilant, to question things that don't seem right, and to never give up hope. Emily Chen walked to school one morning and never arrived, but her journey didn't end there. Her courage in confronting wrongdoing, even though it cost her life, continues to inspire. Her story teaches us that truth has a way of surfacing. Justice can prevail even after many years, and one person's bravery can change an entire community. If you found this story meaningful, please share it with others. Like this video if you believe in the importance of standing up for what's right. Subscribe to hear more stories that reveal the power of truth and the importance of never giving up. And remember, sometimes the smallest discoveries can solve the biggest mysteries. What are your thoughts on Emily's story? Share them in the comments below.